Welcome back, everyone, to the Fantasy Crossover Podcast. I am your host, Danny Duarte, joined here with my co-host, Brian Acevedo. Today, we are recapping the end of Week 1. So, essentially, tip-off week, we're going to be discussing the games that occurred Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. We're currently recording Sunday, so Sunday's recap will be given at a later date. But just for the most part, we're covering the bulk of the week. So without further ado, we're going to kick it off with just game recaps for those days that I just mentioned.
All right, guys. So we'll go ahead and get started with ESPN's games last Wednesday. So we had the Knicks and Celtics. Knicks won 138-134. Top performers quickly for each team. Julius Randle had 35 points, 9 boards, 8 assists, keeping up with his strong regular season performance from last year. He had 7 turnovers, but he did give you 3 blocks, which you didn't get much of last year. So that's definitely a positive sign. Evan Fournier played 44 minutes, gave you 32 points, 6 boards, 3 assists, and 4 steals, and he made 6 threes, which is obviously pretty great. And then shout out to Mitchell Robinson, first game back from injury, gave you 11 points and 17 boards on 5 of 5 shooting from the field and 2 blocks. As far as the Celtics, you did love what you got from Jalen Brown, red hot from the field. He was 16 for 30 with 8 3-pointers made. Also gave you 9 boards, 6 assists, and 3 steals to help out your stat sheet there. His partner in crime, though, Jashan Tatum, did not fare as well. He was 7 for 30 from the field and 2 for 15 from 3. Really got locked up. Not a great shooting night for Tatum at all. Robert Williams' managers should be happy, though. He gave you 16-10 with 5 blocks and 3 steals on 5 of 5 shooting. More importantly, with no Al Horford and the benefit of double OT, he actually played 45 minutes. So that's something to keep an eye on moving forward. We'll move on to Hornets and Indy Pacers. Hornets won 123-122. Top performance for Charlotte. As you guys all saw, LaMelo Ball had a great night. 31 points, 9 boards, 7 assists. He also made 7 threes and gave you 2 steals. This year's going to be scary for anyone against LaMelo if these numbers continue. Obviously, we got a lot to see whether or not it's going to be sustainable or not. Gordon Hayward also picked up right where he left off, gave you 27 points, 5 boards, 3 assists, and a steal. He also gave you a couple threes for good measure and some pretty efficient shooting. As far as the Pacers, Domantas Sabonis, as expected, high usage game, 33 points, 15 boards, and most importantly, he was 4 of 6 from three-point land. We talked about Sabonis needing to improve his three-point game this year. He's definitely shown that at least one game in. His value in 9-category leagues should skyrocket if that continues. Malcolm Brogdon, his partner in crime, had 28 points and 11 assists with only 1 turnover. Got to be happy with that stat line. He also played 40 minutes in this one. And last but not least from the Pacers, the rookie we've all been talking about, Chris Duarte, with his NBA debut, scored 27 points, was 9 of 15 from the field with 6 3-pointers made and 5 boards. Should continue to see a good spot in that rotation with LeVert and Warren out. For Detroit and Chicago, the Bulls won 94-88. Top performers for the Bulls, Zach LaVine looked great. 34 points and 11-11 from the free throw line. Also gave you 7 boards, 4 assists, and a steal and a block. Big Vooch, 15 and 15 in this one, which was awesome, but he did shoot 7 of 21, and no defensive stats is a bummer. It's kind of what I talked about with him, his value being a little bit lower being on that team this year. It's just something that I kind of expect to continue. And then DeRozan and Lonzo both contributed in this game, but this is generally what I think is going to happen in a lot of Bulls games, Levine being the clear number 1. As far as the Pistons, outside of Jeremy Grant, who gave you 24 and 6 with 3 threes, there's not much to see here. They played without Cade Cunningham. I do got to want to shout out Killian Hayes. He was 0 for 6 from the field, only 2 assists and 2 turnovers. Just not a great performance from Killian Hayes there. We'll move on to the Wizards and Raptors. So Washington, with Bradley Beal, he didn't have his best game. 23 points, 4 boards, 3 assists. He did give you 4 steals, though, which is nice to see. Not something you usually expect from Beal, and he was 8 for 8 from the line. I loved what I saw from Montrezl Harrell in game 1. Gave you 22 points and 9 rebounds on 9 of 11 shooting in only 28 minutes. Kuzma also had 15 boards in his first game with the Wizards, which was pretty nice, I guess. Let's see how sustainable that's going to be with Kyle this year. As far as the Raptors, they gave us a whole lot of nothing in their opener. Scotty Barnes looked solid outside of the 6 turnovers that he had. And OG Anunoby got off to a really rough start shooting with 3 of 17 from the field. He did save your day, though, with the 10 rebounds that he got you. As far as the Grizzlies and the Cavs, Grizzlies won 132-121. Ja Morant looked great, and if one game is the season, he definitely shut me up. 37 points, 6 assists, 6 boards. The most important stat to keep an eye on for Ja Morant is that he shot 17 of 29 from the field. If he can continue that efficiency, he's a top 50 player this year, no questions asked. But again, it's a long season, guys. Love the 20-point games from both DeAnthony Melton and Desmond Bane. Their shots look really, really good. Jaren Jackson Jr.'s shot didn't look as good this game, but he did give you 4 blocks to kind of make up for that. As far as the Cavs, I didn't expect Jared Allen to lead them in scoring in game 1. He was 11 for 11 from the field, 25 points with 3 steals and 3 blocks. A little underwhelming on the boards, though. He only gave you 4 rebounds. It's something to kind of keep an eye on. And then the other big for the Cavs, the rookie Evan Mobley, might have had one of his most impressive rookie debuts on Wednesday night. Gave you 17 points, 9 boards, 6 assists, a steal and a block, and he shot 7 for 13 from the field. So definitely a promising start for the rookie there in Cleveland. We'll move on to Timberwolves Rockets. Timberwolves won 124 to 106. Karl Anthony Towns gave you 30 and 10 with 2 steals and 2 blocks, and he also made 3 threes for good measure. He was 100% from the free throw line and was 11 for 15 from the field. Not much more you can ask from Cat in an opening night game. He did get some help from his teammates, this time from sophomore Anthony Edwards. 29 points, 6 boards, and 3 assists with 3 threes made. Lots of hype over Ant this year. This is definitely a great start to his second season. Let's see if he can continue that. And a quick shout out to D'Angelo Russell, 22 points and 7 assists with 4 threes made. As far as H-Town goes, Kevin Porter Jr. had 9 turnovers, which hurt my heart as a KPJ manager, as I have him in a couple of leagues. Christian Wood gave you 16 and 9, but not much home to write about for the rest of Houston's players. Sengun had a nice debut with 11 and 6 with 3 steals and 5 for 5 from the line and 75% from the field. We'll move on to Sixers Pelicans. Sixers won 117 to 97. Not as much buzz behind this matchup with Zion and Ben Simmons out. Embiid gave you kind of a quiet 22, 6, and 5. Tobias Harris was pretty efficient with 20 points, 12 boards on 50% shooting. He didn't make any threes, though. This is something we talked about with Tobias. We'd like to see those threes kind of increase this year to get his fantasy value up. Tyrese Maxey really improved in this game with Ben Simmons out. He got 34 minutes of playing time, gave you 20 points, 7 boards, 5 assists, along with a couple of threes. Definitely got to be happy if you either drafted him late or added him in waivers with the Ben Simmons news. As far as the Pelicans, Valanciunas murdered your field goal percentage with 3 of 19 shooting in this one. Devontae Graham looks like he's going to be mainly useful for threes and points. Gave you 4 threes made. Nickeil Alexander-Walker might have been a late round steal for some folks. Got 34 minutes on 4 threes made, 23 points, and 5 boards. And then obviously Brandon Ingram, as we talked about, is going to benefit with Zion out. He gave you 25, 7, and 6 on nearly 50% shooting. New Orleans is in for a long year, though, guys. As far as Spurs and Magic, Spurs won 123 to 97. They had a well-balanced effort with 7 players in double digits. Jakob Poeltl stood out to me. He gave you 12 points, 13 boards, and 7 assists. Would love to see that continue for the big man in San Antonio. Devin Vassell is someone that stood out to me as well. He could be potentially worth a waiver ad in deeper leagues down the road. Made 3 threes, gave you 19 points and 5 boards. And obviously, the star of the show, DeJounte Murray, even though he didn't make a 3, you love to see a stat line of 15 points, 8 boards, and 6 assists with 4 steals. And then as far as Orlando, Mo Bamba stood out with 3 threes and 4 blocks. How sustainable is it, though? We have seen games like this from him before. I would like to see a bigger sample size before kind of jumping into conclusion. And I do like Wagner. I gave you 6 of 9 shooting, 2 blocks, a steal. He contributed nicely in a couple different categories. Wish I had some more nice things to say about Orlando. I saw him in person on Friday night. Again, they're gonna be in for a long year. Next game up, we have the Jazz and the Thunder. So the Jazz dominated 107 to 86. Again, trying to find some good things to say about OKC in this one. Josh Giddey getting 29 minutes and having 10 rebounds is about all I could come up with, though. Meanwhile, Daniel's favorite Frenchman, Rudy Gobert, crushed the Thunder with 16 points and 21 boards. Donovan Mitchell struggled with his shots, 6 for 17 from the field, but I think he's going to bounce back from that. Bojan Bogdanovic also gave you a nice 10 of 17 shooting from the field and 22 points for your team if you had him. For some of the nightcap games, Nuggets-Suns, Nuggets win 110-98. Jokic gave you an impressive 27 and 13. He did only give you 2 assists, which was a little disappointing on his end. I do expect that assist number to tick up as games go by. MPJ, solid 15, 6, and 5 with 2 steals. Nice to see his assists climb up as well. He only averaged a couple last year, so we'll have to keep an eye on that number. It's going to affect his value for sure. And then Will Barton off the bench, 26-5 with 4 threes made. As far as the Suns, no one scored over 20 points. D-Book shot 3 of 15, and as you guys know, when he doesn't score much, it kind of hurts your team because he doesn't contribute in too many categories. DeAndre Ayton only got 6 boards, which is pretty disappointed as well. I did like Cam Johnson and Landry Shamet off the bench with 3 threes respectively. Kings Blazers 124-121, the last game of the night. Loved what I saw from Harrison Barnes, 36 points and 9 boards along with 2 steals, scorching hot 8 of 11 from 3 and 8 of 9 from the line. Remember guys, this was a number 1 player coming out of high school, so he's definitely capable of games like this. I just wouldn't expect them to be the norm. Rashawn Holmes gave you a hyper-efficient 9 of 10 shooting, 21 points, 11 boards, and 2 blocks. And De'Aaron Fox, as always, stuffed the stat sheet. Still wish his field goal percentage efficiency would creep up a little bit. And then as far as Portland goes, Dame struggled with his shot, 0 for 9 from 3, which is incredibly rare. He did have 11 assists, though, and 6 boards, but not much else. They were carried offensively by CJ McCollum, 34-6-5 with 3 steals, and he made 6 threes, which you can kind of expect from CJ. Shout out also to Yusuf Nurkic. Looked good in 29 minutes, gave you 20 points and 14 boards. And then as far as the Thursday games, just 3 real quick ones. Hawks Mavs. Hawks won 113-87. Luka gave you 18, 11, and 7. Didn't get a lot of help. Jalen Brunson really was the only one who chipped in with 17 off the bench, and that was about it. Disappointing efforts from Porzingis and some others. He and Tim Hardaway Jr. were the only other Mavs that even got into double figures in this one, so it was pretty ugly early on. Meanwhile, the Hawks were the opposite. They had help from everybody. Cam Reddish actually led all scorers with 20 points. I told you, I think Atlanta's trying to shop Reddish, and I can see him getting a lot of looks to kind of trade up his trade value. Capella gave you his usual double-double. Collins gave you a nice stat line. Trae Young struggled with his shot, 6 for 16, but he gave you 14 assists, which is always a nice premium to have with assists. As far as the Heat and Bucks, the Heat took care of things pretty quickly, 137-95 in Miami. Tyler Hero led all scorers for the Heat as no one on the Bucks could really contain him off the bench. 27 points, 3 threes made, 6 boards, and 5 assists. Didn't give you much defensive stats, but again, good numbers from Hero regardless. Bam looked great with 20 and 13 and some efficient shooting as expected. Kyle Lowry did struggle kind of with his shot, 1 for 8, and Jimmy gave you a solid 21, 6, and 4, and was 9 of 11 from the line. Dwayne Dedmon off the bench had a nice game with 13 points and 9 rebounds. As far as Milwaukee, quiet game. No one scored 20 points. Giannis and Middleton didn't even play 25 minutes. And because the game was over quickly, not much else to report on here. Fantasy-wise, Drew Holiday and Brook Lopez were both out for this one of note. And then the last game for Thursday, Warriors-Clippers. Warriors held down a close one, 115-113. Chef Curry bounced back from his rough shooting on Tuesday night, gave you 45 points and 10 assists, 8 3-pointers. This is what we're used to seeing from Chef Curry. Draymond had a pretty efficient game himself, 10 points, 4 of 5 shooting, gave you 7 assists, 6 boards, but he was 2 of 9 from the free throw line, so that's obviously something you're going to have to keep an eye on. And Paul George for the Clippers led the way, 29, 11, and 6, 2 steals and 5 threes made. Expecting to see a lot of similar stat lines from him this year. Meanwhile, Eric Bledsoe surprised everyone except Daniel with 22 points on 10 of 16 shooting. Curious to see how sustainable that's going to be for Bledsoe. Reggie Jackson was brutal from the field on this one, 4 for 19. Definitely expect better from him moving forward.
All right, guys. Thank you, Ryan, for the recap on Wednesday and Thursday night games. Let's quickly take a look at Friday's game. So first game on the docket was Charlotte Hornets versus the Cleveland Cavs. Charlotte won 123 to 112. Big highlights here for Charlotte were Miles Bridges. He led all scorers with 30 points, and he had 7 boards. It's really interesting to see he has 3 steals. It was kind of competition between him and PJ Washington, and right now it seems like he's running away with the job. Other Hornets to note are LaMelo Ball. He had 17 points, 3 rebounds, 6 assists, and he also had 5 steals in this game. So definitely getting a little bit of everything done. And lastly, Kelly Oubre Jr. off the bench. He had 25 points with 4 threes made and 1 steal. So he can give you some scoring off the bench. For the Cavs, we saw Colin Sexton go off with 33 points, 4 rebounds, and 1 assist and 2 steals. He's pretty much just going to be a shooter, and his field goal efficiency was pretty good with 13 of 21. Ricky Rubio started this game because Darius Garland was out, and he had a great double-double, 15 points, 10 assists, and 2 steals. So really good waiver wire right now for the time being. Evan Mobley continues to impress with 13 points, 5 rebounds. He also had 2 steals and 2 blocks. So the rookie is looking phenomenal, especially on that defensive side of things. Next game on the docket, we had the Pacers versus the Wizards, 134-135. Wizards win it. For the Pacers, we saw Miles Turner go off. He had 40 points and 10 rebounds with 1 steal and 3 blocks. He shot a ridiculous 15 from 22 with 5 threes. So that's kind of an anomaly for him, but you'll take it. Malcolm Brogdon continued his great year. He had 28 points, 8 rebounds, 8 assists, 2 steals, and 1 block. He's looking like a phenomenal player this year. If he can stay healthy, he's definitely going to be a top 50, possibly even top 30 player this year. Domantas Sabonis, 28 points, 9 rebounds, 7 assists. He's going to get you those close to triple-double stats every game this year, so continue to look out for that. For the Wizards, we saw Spencer Dinwiddie go off with Bradley Beal being sidelined. Dinwiddie had 34 points, 6 rebounds, 9 assists. He's going to get you assists and points as a Wizard moving forward. What you're looking out for is his efficiency, and he finished 13 from 24 this game, so we'd love to see that continue. Kyle Kuzma surprised everyone. He shot 26 points and 11 rebounds, so really good to see him pick up the pieces while Beal's out and kind of create a new storyline in Washington. And lastly, off the bench, we had Harrell go for 14 points, 7 rebounds, and 2 assists. It's looking like Harrell can be a 6 Man of the Year candidate once again if he continues to pace at this rate. Next game on the docket, we had the Knicks beating out the Orlando Magic 121-96. For the Knicks side, it was pretty lopsided, so I'll really only call out 2 Knicks right now. It's Julius Randle. He had close to a triple-double with 21 points, 10 rebounds, and 7 assists with 2 steals, and he shot 9 for 16 from the field. And then we had Evan Fournier go off for 18 points, 2 rebounds, and 3 assists with 2 steals. And the Knicks seem to have a lot of players coming in and out of the lineup for this game. For the most part, it was kind of a blowout from the beginning, so there wasn't much more to report there. For the Magic, it is interesting to see Mo Bamba continue to put up fantasy-relevant numbers. He had 15 points and 10 rebounds with 3 threes made and 1 steal and 2 blocks. Again, this guy, if you give him enough minutes, he is definitely going to produce. Next, we had Jalen Suggs, who his efficiencies are horrendous, 4 for 17 from the field, but he did finish with 14 points, 7 rebounds, and 8 assists. I'm very curious to see how this rookie continues to progress as the games go by. Next game on the docket, we had the Brooklyn Nets beating out the Philadelphia 76ers, 114-109. Kevin Durant had an insane triple-double. He had 29 points, 15 rebounds, 12 assists, shooting a 9 for 20 and going 10 for 10 from the line. Great all-around game. And then James Harden also produced like crazy, 20 points, 7 rebounds, 8 assists with 2 steals. Again, great game for the two anchors of this team. Then for the Philadelphia 76ers, we saw Tobias Harris have a really good game. He shot 50% for the field, 10 for 20, and he put up 23 points, 7 rebounds, and 4 assists. We also saw Joel Embiid kind of produce great numbers, 19 points, 8 rebounds, 4 assists, with 2 steals and 4 blocks. So that's kind of what you expect from Embiid on a night-to-night basis. Next on the docket, we have the Raptors beating out the Celtics 115-83, so kind of a blowout. The player I really like to call out right now is Scotty Barnes. You know, this was his second game, and he put up 25 points with 13 rebounds and 2 assists on 11 for 17 shooting. That's great numbers to see. Another player to really call out that we weren't expecting much of is Precious Achiuwa. He put up 15 points and 15 boards in this game with 2 steals. So right now it's looking like Achiuwa might be a sleeper in this Raptors team, depending on how much Nick Nurse and the Raptors staff uses him. On the Celtics side of thing, we saw Jashan Tatum put up 18 points, 6 rebounds, and 4 assists with 1 block, but he had 5 turnovers. Again, Tatum's going to have these on and up games, but for the most part, you're looking for him to score over 20 to 25 points per game. Another great Celtic to call out this game was Al Horford. He had 11 points, 11 rebounds, 2 assists, and he had 4 blocks. So if we can see Horford produce these numbers where most people drafted him kind of in the hundreds, he's definitely going to give you a good return on your value. And then lastly, I want to call out Robert Williams. His points and rebounds weren't what really stood out to me. It was more so his blocks, with 3 blocks and 1 steal. You're looking for defensive stats and great efficiency from Robert Williams, and that's what you're going to continue to get if you get some minutes. Next game on the docket was the New Orleans Pelicans versus the Bulls. Bulls won 128-112. For the Pelicans, we saw Brandon Ingram go off. He had 26 points, 8 rebounds, and 8 assists on an efficient 10 for 20 shooting with 2 threes. Next, we had Devontae Graham go off with 21 points, 6 rebounds, and 6 assists on, again, efficient shooting 50% from the field with 6 threes made. And then for the Bulls side of things, we saw Zach Levine go off. He had 32 points, 6 rebounds, and 5 assists with 6 threes made and 1 block. But the player to really call out is Lonzo Ball. He had a triple-double in this one. He had 17 points, 10 rebounds, 10 assists with 3 steals and 1 block and 3 threes made. Lonzo's looking like a great addition to this Bull team. But the one thing with the Bulls is it's any guy's given night. So, Nikola Vucevic might not go off if the other guys go off. Same thing with DeMar DeRozan. So it's just something to keep an eye out on. Next game on the docket was the Oklahoma City Thunder versus the Houston Rockets. Rockets won 124-91. For the Rockets, we saw Christian Wood go absolutely bonkers. He had 29 points, 14 rebounds, 1 steal, and 3 blocks, shooting 4 threes made, and he had 12 for 18 from the field. Again, excellent game. Next, we saw Kevin Porter Jr. put up pretty good stats, 20 points and 9 assists with 2 steals and 2 blocks. And then Jashan Tate, he surprised everyone. He had 16 points, 14 rebounds, and 6 assists. That's an anomaly for Tate. Don't expect that on a nightly basis, but you'll take it where you can get it. For the Thunder, nothing really to call out for them. Overall, pretty disappointing performances. The one player that I'd keep my eye out on is Josh Giddey. He had 6 points, 4 assists, 2 rebounds, but he also chipped in 1 steal and 1 block. This is probably the player, aside from SGA, that you want to keep your eye out on this volatile Thunder team. Next on the docket, we had the San Antonio Spurs losing to the Denver Nuggets 96-102. For the Spurs, we saw Derek White have a pretty good game. He had 16 points with 8 assists, but what's really standing out to him is the 2 steals and the 2 blocks that he contributed. Also, we saw DeJounte Murray with another great stat line. 15 points, 9 rebounds, 6 assists with 2 steals. That's why you drafted Murray, and it's great to see that he's continuing to contribute in that area. Then for the Nuggets side of things, we saw Nikola Jokic have an insane stat line. He had 32 points, 16 rebounds, and 7 assists with 3 steals and 1 block. This is why players drafted him first overall. You're expecting him to get all these stats all around. And then Will Barton chipped in with 12 points, 7 rebounds, and 6 assists. If he's on your waiver wire because no one drafted him, definitely pick him up. It's looking like Will Barton is going to contribute across the board this year. Then on the docket, we have the Phoenix Suns beating the LA Lakers 115-105. Chris Paul had an absolutely amazing night. He had 23 points, 5 rebounds, and 14 assists with 2 steals, and he only had 5 turnovers. So again, overall great performance for CP3. We also saw Mikal Bridges have 21 points, 5 rebounds, and 3 assists with 2 threes and 3 steals and 1 block. Mikal Bridges is a 3-and-D guy, so if you can get him to knock down a couple threes and get you those defensive stats, you're going to be a very happy camper. For the Lakers side of things, we saw Anthony Davis have a very well-rounded game. He had 22 points, 14 rebounds. He did shoot poorly, going 6 for 18 from the field, but he did give you 1 steal and 2 blocks, so you'll definitely take it any day of the week. We also saw Russell Westbrook feel more comfortable in this game. He had 15 points, 11 rebounds, and 9 assists with 2 steals and 1 block. You do want his efficiency to get better. He shot 6 for 15 from the field and made 0 threes, and he shot less than 50% from the line. But you know what you're getting with Westbrook. You're getting someone that can pad those all-around offensive stats. And then we had the Utah Jazz beating the Sacramento Kings 110-101. Donovan Mitchell had an absolutely insane game. 27 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists with 2 steals. Again, his efficiency is going to be the thing that limits Mitchell from being a top 30 player, hopefully this year. He only shot 9 for 25 from the field and 6 threes, but 6 of 14 from the 3-point range. But overall, you're getting pretty solid stats with his points and all-around stats. And then with Rudy Gobert, you saw 17 points and 20 boards with 2 steals. Gobert is surprisingly making a lot of his free throws. He's usually around 60 to 70%. He shot 9 for 10 for this game. So if he can get his free throw percentage around 80%, man, he's gonna be a top 20 player, hands down. And then with the Sacramento Kings, we saw Harrison Barnes put up another crazy game, 25 points, 15 rebounds, and 2 assists with 1 steal. He shot 9 for 20 from the field, but again, we weren't expecting this from Harrison Barnes. He was probably drafted very late, so keep riding him while you can. We also saw Buddy Hield go 24 points, 7 rebounds, and 1 assist with 6 threes made on 9 for 21 shooting. Hield is a 3-point specialist. You expect him to make at least 4 threes per game. He's definitely contributing on that front. All right, and then let's get into Saturday's game. So on Saturday, we saw the Atlanta Hawks playing the Cleveland Cavaliers. Cleveland won this one 101-95. With Cleveland, we saw Ricky Rubio again have a great game. He had 23 points, 6 rebounds, 8 assists, and 1 steal. Again, guys, Rubio's going to be filling in with Garland out, and also he's going to be a 6-man. He should be picked up at this point. There is no reason why he should not be on someone's roster. He's putting up great numbers. Then we saw Evan Mobley, the rookie, continue to impress. He had 17 points, 11 rebounds, 1 steal, and 4 blocks. Again, Mobley looks like he can be in the Rookie of the Year contention with his overall performance. For the Hawks side of things, we saw Trae Young go 24 points, 7 assists, and 3 steals. He did have a pretty poor shooting night, going 8 for 22 from the field and only 1 of 6 3-pointers made. But again, with Trae Young, you're expecting him to knock down threes and give you a pretty good assist, lineup. With Clint Capella, we saw 10 points, 14 rebounds. He shot 5 for 12 from the field, and he gave you 2 blocks. So a typical Capella stat. But the one Hawk to keep an eye on, Brian touched on this, Cam Reddish. He had 19 points, 6 rebounds. He shot 50% from the field, 7 for 14, and he made 3 threes. It's going to be interesting what they use Cam Reddish for. I agree with Brian. He's probably trade bait, just given the fact that they have a lot of wings, but he's definitely someone you should have on your fantasy roster for the time being. Next, we saw the Heat lose to the Indiana Pacers 91-102. For the Heat, we saw Jimmy Butler have a great stat line. 19 points, 6 rebounds, 6 assists with 3 steals. That's a typical Butler stat line. He shot very poorly from the field, 7 for 22, which is kind of an anomaly for him. But with all those other stats, you'll take it. Bam Adebayo continues to impress. He had 17 points and 16 rebounds with 3 assists, 1 steal, and 1 block. Bam did shoot very poorly from the field as well, 6 for 15. But again, with those rebounds and just all-around great stats, you'll take it. Bam's assists do appear to be going down a little bit, but that's not a reason to be concerned for having him on your team. And then Tyler Hero, the surprising Heat, he put up 30 points off the bench with 10 rebounds and 3 threes made. Again, poor shooting all around for the Heat, but he's definitely 6-man of the year candidate right now. For the Pacers, Chris Duarte continues to put up great numbers, 19 points with 5 rebounds and 1 assist, going 6 for 21 from the field. Poor shooting night, but for a rookie, he's putting up great numbers, and he's going to continue to thrive in Rick Carlisle's system. Malcolm Brogdon had another great night. He put up 18 points, 14 rebounds, and 4 assists with 2 blocks. Poor efficiency all around, but again, he put up great numbers to kind of counteract that. And Domantas Sabonis, 17 points, 12 rebounds, 4 assists with 4 steals. Sabonis is definitely top 25 this year. Mavericks versus the Toronto Raptors. The Mavericks came out on top, 103-95. Luka Doncic almost had a triple-double, 27 points, 9 rebounds, 12 assists with 1 block. He did shoot 11 for 24 from the field with 2 of 10 3-point shooting. But again, those other stats definitely make up for it. Tim Hardaway Jr. had a great night, 25 points with 7 threes made. He's again a 3-point shooter and a points guy. That's what you're drafting him for. Kristaps Porzingis had a pretty solid night, 18 points, 10 rebounds with 1 steal and 4 blocks. If he can continue to shoot efficiently and also get you those defensive statistics, he's definitely got a great spot in being a top 50 player. For the Raptors, we saw OG Anunoby have a great game, 23 points with 5 3-pointers made, 2 steals and 2 blocks. OG's a 3-and-D guy as well, so if he can get you those 3-pointers with great points and defensive stats, top 50 year, we're expecting again. And then Scotty Barnes had another great night, 17 points, 8 rebounds, 2 assists. He shot 50% from the field, and he shot pretty well from the line, 5 of 7. For a rookie, he's really impressive in my opinion. And the last guy I want to call out is Precious Achua. He had 10 points and 12 boards. This is a guy that can't be on the waiver wire anymore, guys. He's definitely putting up numbers that are fantasy relevant at this point. All right, moving forward, we have the Detroit Pistons losing to the Chicago Bulls, 82-97. There wasn't much from the Pistons. The only player I'll really call out is Saddiq Bey. He had a great stat line, 20 points, 16 rebounds, 1 steal, and 1 block. I don't expect that to be the norm for him, but again, you'll take it if he performs this way every once in a while. For the Bulls, we saw DeMar DeRozan have a great night. He had 21 points, 6 rebounds, 6 assists with 2 blocks, and an efficient 7 for 18 shooting and 7 free throws made. Nikola Vucevic also put up great numbers. He had 15 points, 19 rebounds, and 3 assists with 2 steals and 3 blocks. If he can contribute those defensive statistics every once in a while, he's definitely still going to be fantasy relevant, especially in the top 50. And then lastly, Lonzo Ball. His numbers didn't really pop out on an offensive front. 13 points, 4 rebounds, 1 assist, but he got you 3 steals and 4 blocks. So Lonzo may not give you the most scoring or anything, but he's definitely contributing on the defensive front, which is great for those managers that definitely need those defensive statistics. Next, we had the Pelicans losing to the Timberwolves 89-96. Brandon Ingram continues to put up great numbers, 30 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists with 1 steal, and shooting 12 for 23 from the field. Jonas Valanciunas had an amazing game, 20 points, 17 boards, shooting 6 for 10 from the field, and having 3 steals and 1 block. With Zion out, I definitely expect this guy to eat, especially in the paint and with the boards. And Nickeil Alexander-Walker surprisingly had 14 points, but 14 rebounds. He did shoot 6 for 24 from the field, so was not efficient at all. But again, for where you probably drafted him or picked him up from the waiver wire, you're going to be a happy camper. For the Timberwolves, there wasn't much here. Karl-Anthony Towns had a great stat line, 25 points, 4 rebounds, 2 assists with 3 blocks, all around great cat game. And then Anthony Edwards had a great stat line as well, 19 points, 9 rebounds, 5 assists, 1 steal, and 1 block. So again, with Anthony Edwards, if he can continue shooting efficiently and also getting you defensive stats, he's definitely a top 50 player this year. Next up on the docket, we had the Bucks beating the Spurs 121-111. Chris Middleton had a pretty good game, 28 points, 2 rebounds, 3 assists with 2 steals. If Middleton can give you any defensive stats wherever he gets them, you'll take them. Everything else he thrives in. Then we had Giannis Antetokounmpo put up 21 points, 8 rebounds, 8 assists with 3 blocks. We expect nothing less. The one thing we want to point out with Giannis is he was 6 for 8 from the free throw line. So if he continues his free throw efficiency, man, he could easily be the number 1 fantasy player. And then Drew Holiday put up 16 points, 4 rebounds, 5 assists. All around great game for Drew. The only downside to him was that he had no defensive stats to contribute. Then for the Spurs, we saw Derek White have a pretty good game, 14 points, 2 rebounds, 8 assists with 4 steals and 1 block. So Derek White definitely should be someone that you want for those defensive stats. We saw Jakob Poeltl put up another nice all-around game with 10 points, 8 rebounds, and 6 assists with 2 steals and 2 blocks. So, hey, man, with those stats for center, definitely take them. And then Jashan Tate Murray, another great all-around game, 10 points, 9 rebounds, 7 assists, and 1 steal. So close to that triple-double range that we expect from him. Next, we had the Phoenix Suns losing to the Portland Trailblazers 105-134. The Suns to call out in this game were Devin Booker. He had 21 points, 4 rebounds, 4 assists with 2 steals, and he shot 9 for 19 from the field. And then Chris Paul only had 4 points, but he did give you 11 assists, so he continues those great assist numbers. For the Trailblazers, we saw CJ McCollum go off. He shot an efficient 10 for 19 from the field with 28 points, 3 rebounds, and 1 assist. He also got you 1 steal and 3 blocks, so you'll definitely be a happy camper taking that. He did hit 6 threes as well. And then Damian Lillard got you 19 points, 1 rebound, and 8 assists. So Dame looks like he's going to get you more assists this year. I do want to see his scoring go back up, kind of like above 25, but, it's the second game of the season, so we'll be patient. And Yusuf Nurkic, this is a guy that we have high hope for. He had 9 points, 12 rebounds, and 3 assists with 2 steals. So depending on how much Nurk can continue this pace, he could definitely be top 50 worthy. And then the last game on the docket was the Memphis Grizzlies beating the LA Clippers 120-114. For the Grizzlies, their whole starting 5 was amazing. John Morant, he continues to shut both Brian and I up. He got 28 points, 2 rebounds, and 8 assists on 10 for 19 shooting. Ja, keep it up, man. You definitely can finish top 50, no doubt. Anthony Melton had another great game, 22 points with 7 boards and 2 assists. And then another 2 players that I really want to call out are Jaren Jackson Jr., 21 points with 7 boards and 3 threes with 1 steal and 1 block. And surprisingly enough, Steven Adams, 17 points, 9 rebounds, and 5 assists with 2 steals. I don't expect Steven Adams to have this stat line often, especially considering the fact that he made 5 of 5 free throws. But as a Steven Adams owner, if you have him, you'll take that stat line any day of the week. Then for the Clippers, not much was happening for them in terms of fantasy relevance this game. Paul George went off. He had 41 points with 10 rebounds and 4 assists and 2 steals. This is what we expect for PG-13 this year. With 5 threes, he's going to have to put up crazy numbers for his team even to be sniffing the playoffs. And then Eric Bledsoe continues to impress. He had 12 points, 6 rebounds, 7 assists, 2 steals, and 2 blocks. Go get Bledsoe. His efficiency might not be the best in terms of field goal efficiency, but everything else, it's looking like we're going to get that all-NBA defensive style Eric Bledsoe this year. So if he's on the waiver wire, go pick him up. And yeah, that about rounds out the games for Friday and Saturday.
Yeah, man, a lot to take in. Just trying to process all the information that we have from the first few games. Again, guys, I wouldn't overtly panic one way or the other. For those of you that have OG Anunoby, I know he had a rough first week, but again, guys are feeling out the new rotations, new teammates, maybe even new coaches in some aspects. Don't panic. Just kind of keep an eye on how things are going, monitor any situations. Danny and I are going to kind of quickly go over waiver wires and top and injury ads as well for this week, for the upcoming week, and then we can just kind
All
of
right, yeah, for
toss
sure.
it from
So
there.
just a quick highlight, guys, of some of the top added players off of the waiver wire. So number one, DeAnthony Melton. This is a guy that shouldn't be on the waivers anymore. He's proving that if he gets a consistent minutes on the roster, he can give you all around stats. Another waiver wire pickup was Jashan Tate. Again, we'll see what to expect from Tate. He definitely does have 12-team relevancy in fantasy, especially in 9-category leagues, but we'll see how his role carves out with the more games played. Next, we have Franz Wagner being picked up. Again, another great player that, given the injuries in Orlando right now with Gary Harris, Jonathan Isaac, and Chumo Kiki, he's getting a lot of minutes. I think he's averaging over 30 minutes per game, so he's definitely going to put up numbers. Then we have Desmond Bane from Memphis, also kind of like DeAnthony Melton. With the minutes, he's putting up crazy numbers. We have Cody Martin from the Charlotte Hornets. This one's kind of weird to me. He did have a solid game, but I don't see him being fantasy relevant, especially in that crowded Charlotte front court. Precious Achua from the Toronto Raptors, definitely someone you should be, focused on getting, guys. This guy is going to easily be a double-double machine if the Raptors and Nick Nurse decide to give him more minutes over people like Chris Boucher and Kemp Birch. And then lastly, I want to call out Alex Caruso. He's a guy that's not putting up a lot of points. I think he's averaging like 8 points for the season, but he is getting you great defensive statistics. I believe that right now Caruso's getting 3 steals and 1 block. So again, just an all-around great player, especially at the guard position. And then when we look at the most dropped, we have Otto Porter Jr. being dropped from Golden State. There's no question here. People kind of overreacted to one good game that he may have had with Golden State. It's kind of in flux with their role players who's going to go off on a nightly basis. Then we had Marvin Bagley the third. If you guys didn't see the tweet / the quote that his agent put out, it doesn't look like Marvin Bagley is going to get much playing time, if at all, on most nights. Killian Hayes, again, pretty disappointing performances in terms of efficiency and getting points up. And then Hassan Whiteside. Guys, he may have had one good night, but with Whiteside, he is coming off the bench behind a pretty big beast of a player in Rudy Gobert, so don't expect them to contribute too much apart from the occasional good board game and maybe 1 or 2 blocks.
Yeah, and those ads and drops are all kind of in line with what I saw in my leagues. It obviously there's going to be a lot of players that are going to fluctuate depending on injuries and things of that nature over the next couple of weeks. So just take a look at your roster, take a look at how you did week one. If you lost, maybe focus on some categories that you struggled with and say, hey, were they anomalies or were they maybe your players just aren't performing the way you thought, and maybe you need to add a couple waiver ads and see if someone sticks. Don't panic though, as we kind of mentioned earlier. It's very early. It's a long season, so don't feel like you have to make your first trade right away. If you drafted somebody for a reason, it's usually with good reason. So just don't panic and don't feel like you have to make a move if you lost week one. Or on the contrary, if you won week one, don't feel like you automatically have to just keep things the same. There's always ways to shift it up. There's going to be matchups that you want to keep an eye on. We're going to try to get you guys a schedule grid, so that way you guys have an idea of how many teams, how many games each team is playing in week 2. That way it'll be easier to kind of set your decisions. Personally, when I add my waiver guys, I like to take a look at who's playing the most games, because generally speaking, that means the most opportunities to get touches and put up stats. So what I'll do is quickly just go into the injuries. Don't have too many injuries, only coming off week 1. But we'll start with Bradley Beal. He was limited in practice on Sunday, had a groin issue. He's expected to play Monday, but it is something to consider. A lot of these guys have been kind of game time decisions, so don't get burned and waste a roster. I guess not to waste a roster spot, but waste a lineup spot if you can potentially sit him instead of somebody else. Keep an eye on that, but it does look like Bradley Beal will play. Nerlens Noel for the Knicks has yet to play. Tibbs does expect him to be ready to go next week. Be wary of the rotation, though. The Knicks team is deep this year, and they seem to be playing Obi Toppin with Julius Randle quite a bit, so that might cut into Noel's minutes. Kyle Lowry is questionable going into Monday night's game against Orlando. He did sit on Saturday with an ankle issue, so again, something to keep an eye on for any Kyle Lowry managers out there. Maybe leads for more minutes for Tyler Hero. Terry Rozier did not play against the Nets on Sunday for Brooklyn. He's only played in one game thus far for Charlotte, so something to kind of be wary of. I mean, obviously, I wouldn't say you're going to trade him off that, but it's definitely going to boost up guys like Kelly Oubre, guys like LaMelo Ball, et cetera, et cetera. Jaylen Brown did not play Sunday with a knee issue. Pretty concerning that he's missing games this early into the season, as young as he is, and obviously as pivotal of a piece as he is for Boston. It's definitely not what you want to see. Hopefully, Jalen recovers from that pretty quickly. Dylan Brooks of the Grizzlies is out until next weekend. He kind of has a hand and thigh injury. I would say he's borderline rosterable once he returns, but again, him being out is going to benefit guys like Desmond Bane, guys like Kyle Anderson, et cetera, et cetera. They're going to be getting more touches with Dylan Brooks out for the rest of this week. Speaking of guys that's going to be out for a little while, Rui Hachimura. For those of you that manage Rui, he's going to be out both Monday and Wednesday. I would say probably worth dropping. I know that there may be some guys that are big believers in Rui taking a big step this year, but if he's missing 2 games this week already that you know of and might even lead to more, I don't know if it's someone that you want to keep on a roster spot. He's not a star that I would necessarily keep in an IR spot just to hold him. So something to keep an eye there. Brook Lopez with a back injury is not going to be available for Monday's game against Indiana. And as you guys noted, he did not play last weekend either. So I think this is going to be his 3rd straight game missing. Definitely concerning for Brook Lopez managers for sure. Cade Cunningham, the number 1 pick for the Pistons, as we noted, has not played yet. He is scrimmaging in the G League for the Pistons. I don't know how to feel about that. I don't think I've ever seen the number 1 pick ramp up that way. But hey, Detroit runs their organization the way they do. And then Norm Powell avoided a serious injury to his knee on Saturday against Phoenix. We're going to await further reports for a timeline on his return, but that's definitely something to keep an eye on for the Portland bench players. Danny, any quick thoughts on week 1 and
No, I
leading
think
up
you
to week
touched on
2
it the best.
preview?
Guys, don't overreact. Whether you did win week 1 or you did lose week 1, to your performance, uh, things might not have lined up exactly perfectly for you. Also, some guys are getting in the rhythm of new teams, new situations, new coaching. So again, just kind of, I don't want to say ride the wave, because we definitely do want you guys to be active on the waiver wire or be looking for trades that benefit your team, but just don't overreact and do something brash like drop a rookie with a lot of potential because he may have had poor field goal percentages, or drop a player because they're injured for a short period of time. You don't want to lose out on that potential just because it's a very short-sighted game. But apart from that, Brian, I think you touched on everything really well. Thank you.
Yeah, of course, man. Of course. I'm excited for week 2. A couple quick matchups that I saw. Knicks Sixers on Tuesday night and Knicks Bulls on, I believe, Thursday night as well. Those are going to be 2 good games. And I believe the Heat are playing on Friday night as well. Let me just pull that up. They had a good game that I saw is coming up on Friday night. It's, Charlotte at Miami. And as you guys know, as of this recording, Charlotte is 3-0 and undefeated, just coming off a win against the Brooklyn Nets. I think that could be a potential playoff preview over there in Miami
it'll
on Friday
definitely
night.
be another fun week for basketball guys. So definitely stay in the loop. We'll be giving you guys updates throughout the week on just overall fantasy performances, players to look out for, players to drop, possibly pick up, and our thoughts on how the season's playing out. Until next time, guys, just subscribe to our YouTube channel. Like the video, comment, Again, that definitely does help the YouTube algorithm. Also, we are available on most streaming services for podcasts. So Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, whatever. We are probably on that platform. So go give us a follow so that you're up to date for when we do release new episodes. And then lastly, interact with us on social. We're on Twitter and Instagram, the Fantasy Crossover Podcast. Again, just interact with us, see our stories, give us your thoughts. We definitely love the feedback. We love to interact with you guys. Had an interesting question this week. Who would probably have the better fantasy year between Mitchell Robinson and Chris Boucher? Interesting question. I honestly told them it depends on their roster overall. Like, do they need more defense? Do they need more scoring? Like, what's their scheme? But again, these are the types of engagements that we really like from you guys. So keep them up. And until next time, guys, take it easy. Thank you.